take two. Hopefully, no sound issues this time. Welcome to the Utopia Room at Archant HQ. We're going to reflect for the second time. Hopefully, this time technology holds up about this story that has landed on our websites in the last 20 minutes, half an hour or so. I'll just read you the headline: US tycoons in Norwich City investment talks. Paddy Davitt, this is significant.
Certainly is, Connor. Certainly is something we've been working on for a few days. And yes, we understand. In fact, we know that a US tycoon by the name of Mark Attanasio, apologies for the pronunciation.
I was glad you said it first because I was going to just call him Mark.
Okay, fair enough. We've had a bit of practice last few days, but basically the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers, major baseball team in America, he was at Carr Road on Sunday for the Tottenham game. He was joined by a delegation which included a couple of his sons, another major corporate investor and longtime friend, and three of the Brewers management team, if you want to call them that. And they were all there meeting city officials with a view to investment into the football club. And as yet, no comment from Norwich City officially or from Mr. Attanasio's spokesperson, who we've been in dialogue with across the pond. But fundamentally, the story is accurate, the story is correct, and all I'll say is a certain sporting director may have made mention of 2 to 3 weeks for some exciting and surprising news. We'll leave you to draw your own conclusions about that. But what isn't in doubt is that there are American investors looking to get involved in Norwich City Football Club, which is phenomenally big news, and we're so delighted to be able to break that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's quite something that the work that we've been through in the last few days to get this across the line. So it's good that it's finally out there. Worth stressing as well at this stage, we don't know the level of investment. We don't know what they're looking at in terms of shares or how many shares or what it would look like from a logistical perspective, what roles would be allocated to potential investors should this deal go over the line. And worth stressing at this stage, it's not at that stage. It's not across the line. It's not a done deal, and that's it. But they, as Paddy mentioned, we know that they were at Carrow Road on Sunday for the game against Tottenham Hotspur. We know they stayed in a hotel local to Norwich, and this is significant because this is, I think, for the first time, probably in a long time, really, we're talking about external investment potentially being put into Norwich City. And given what he's done with the Brewers, and we've done a little bit of research on him in terms of his growth being quite organic and taking them to a level where I'm not big on baseball, so someone maybe will be better to comment on what they've done in terms of a baseball perspective. But it doesn't seem like he's just thrown cash at it. From reports and stuff that we've researched, it seems that as a relatively low estimate, he's worth around $700 million. Again, that could be more. Paddy, you're probably best to speak about the investment company that he's involved in as well.
Yeah, it would appear that that's kind of where his background lies in terms of venture capital, and we're led to believe he owns a company by the name of Crescent Capital, which has assets, I think when we checked, of $29 billion. This is a serious player, absolutely no doubt about it. And as we say, he's owned the Brewers for 17 years, I think it is.
2004, yeah.
Which again, in terms of mapping to Norwich and that level of longevity, then, there's clearly a parallel with these two individuals, Delia and Michael. So, the fact that he was at Carr Road Sunday feels significant. I'm sure that would have been an opportunity maybe to meet the owners. And you only have to look at kind of his, if you go on the Brewers official club site, there's a page there where it maps out almost his values and uncannily similar in terms of valuing staff, wanting it to be a place where people want to come to work. Their work in the community, they're very big on that, clearly, it would seem. And all of those elements in terms of their place in the community and the impact they can have in their local community, they chime with clearly the ethos here at Norwich City. So it feels like maybe there is quite a lot of common ground, but fundamentally this will be about, the financial aspects of a deal, which, as you rightly say, is yet to be concluded. But, if a guy who's of that standing in the US sports ownership is at Carr Road, I think you can take it safely as read that there is quite an advanced degree to the negotiation. So hugely exciting and hugely surprising, to paraphrase the sporting director.
Yes, exactly that. So the delegation in total, you might have to help me with some names here, Pag, because I'm sure I'm going to forget someone, but it was Mark Atanasio, who of course is the principal owner and chairman of the Brewers. It was his son Mike, his son Dan. It was Rosie
Richard Resler.
Richard Resler, that's right. It was Dan Fumai, yeah, who's the
Come
chief
on, Connor, you've been working on this for a number of days.
My head is frazzled, I'll be honest with you. It was what's the name of
Rick Schlesinger.
That's it. You're probably better to say the names. I don't know who else I've forgotten. It was David Stearns.
David Stearns.
He was a nice and easy one. But that was the delegation of 7, all at Carrow Road, from as we said, meeting city officials. I mean, this is feels like a big moment for Norwich City, doesn't it? Because this debate around the external investment and being a self-funded club, it feels like that could potentially change, but maybe not to a massive degree, obviously, given what you said there.
Well,
and obviously with the caveat that we don't know what the size of investment is.
At this stage we don't know, and that will become clear if it crystallises into a firm investment in the football club. But as I say, we know, because whenever they've spoken about the ownership and what next and the succession plan, that they're very keen, as they've always stated. They're not owners, they're custodians. They're really holding the baton for what they want to be or want to leave, which is a sustainable football club that is in the community, that is here for generations still to come. And it feels like, as I say, to reference what I said earlier, there's a guy there who's been part of a large American sporting entity for 17 years. That's the sort of longevity I'm sure that would have appealed to the two people behind me when maybe the exploratory elements of this growing relationship came to pass. So yeah, it's it feels like it could be a significant move, and maybe a sense of eras starting to sort of move on again. And we don't need to rake over the coals of what's gone before, certainly in the last 12 months, on and off the pitch. But this would certainly turn the dial if everything comes to pass, and in the next 2 to 3 weeks potentially that there is a US investment presence at the top of Norwich City Football Club. And then of course it'll be hugely interesting to see what that means in terms of the short term and maybe the mid to longer term. Certainly for somebody who's been associated with that Milwaukee Brewers for 17 years, that would give you the impression that he's here for maybe the longer term. He's not here. He doesn't see Norwich as an investment vehicle that maybe they could turn a fast buck. I mean, it throws up a range of questions, and obviously we'll now try to digest those and move this story on. But why is Norwich such an attractive proposition to somebody who is looking at it from the other side of the pond? It maybe just underlines the work that the work that Stuart Webber, for all the sort of angst around him and elements around his personal life, as he would have said, with the mountaineering, as he said in that club interview. But fundamentally, that they have, in the last 3 or 4 years, built a very solid, very stable, very sustainable football club. But, as we all debate liberally, is there an extent to the ambitions under the self-funded model? It feels that way, certainly at Premier League level, these last 2 attempts. Could this be a signal that, maybe that self-funded element is going to be taken on a number of levels, not just one level? But it's a big news story, and we can't wait to see how this plays out from here.
Yes, absolutely, Paddy. Before we swap you out, is there anything else that people should be looking out for, maybe in the next day or so? Yeah,
definitely keep an eye on our channels for tomorrow morning. I'll give you a heads up on that. We're going to have some very interesting pieces of content off the back of this that we haven't actually put out there yet, and I think it's safe to say now you won't probably find that anywhere else. So the Pink 'Un is very much the place to be on this story, and we will bring you every twist and turn. But for now, I'm going to go lie down in the darkened corner of it.
Yes, and I'll be joining you very shortly. But we're going to swap you out. We're going to bring Sam Seaman in as well for his reaction to this story. Sam, massive news.
Yeah, enormous, really. And I think it comes at a really interesting time, given the concerns of this season, obviously, and how that's gone. A lot of calls for this for a long time, really. And I was surprised by the sort of, I've seen quite a bit of negative reaction, I suppose. These things are always polarising, and there was always going to be a degree of that. But I think in terms of if these investors do get the deal over the line and they do come in, it's probably good timing in terms of it's the perfect backdrop in terms of an example of why maybe Norwich might benefit from this sort of thing. And we know, Delia has been open about the fact that she didn't want to ever sell or do a deal with somebody that she didn't think was capable of taking the club forward in the same direction that she feels it should go in.
Yes, which sorry to cut across, but that's what makes this so interesting, as Paddy was saying, because if they're at this stage, then clearly Delia and Michael do think that this is the type of person that should be going to the club.
Yeah, and I think their track record obviously does suggest something like that. And I think Paddy spoke about the longevity in terms of their association with the Milwaukee Brewers, and I think that's the sort of people that Delia has been probably looking for a long time, really. And when you're looking to invest, I'm sure there are certain people that were out there, saying that Norwich were probably in need of something like that, maybe, but also that these were the requirements, and it looks so far, and I'm sure there are a lot of people getting excited, and maybe even we're getting slightly excited by this news, but it looks at present like it's probably going to be quite a good fit, and it looks like quite a good fit so far. So we'll see if they get it over the line.
Yeah, and that last point you make is really worth adding and stressing at this stage, because we have been here before with people wanting to invest in Norwich City, entering talks to invest in Norwich City, and for whatever reason they have not happened. So we have to wait until a deal gets over the line, until we know fully what it looks like and how many shares, for example, and what the structure looks like, for example. Of course, there's still work to be done in getting this over the line. It is interesting, as Pad said earlier, that this comes at a time where Stuart Webber's just done a club interview and spoke about exciting and surprising announcements to come in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We don't know for sure that this is what it is, but I think it would be quite a coincidence if it was not. That's fair to say. Sam, finally then, before we leave, because we're hoping to make this quite short and sharp, because I think our heads are a little bit all over the place after the day we've had. But you kind of mentioned some of the reaction there, and as we said, and we have to keep stressing, still some way to go. But if this did happen, how do you think Norwich City fans would reflect on it overall?
Well, as I said earlier, really, I think there's been more negative reaction than I expected. I think the backdrop of this season really probably will help them in terms of showing why this investment maybe will benefit Norwich City at this juncture. But yeah, I think it probably takes time to shock, and humans generally don't react great to change,
particularly in Norfolk.
Yeah, and it's obviously been Delia and Michael for a long time, and we've been used to a model for a long time. So I think there will be an adjustment period, but it depends what sort of investment levels would be coming in terms of transfers. You look at like a Burnley, for example, and yes, there would have been headlines Burnley takeover, and on the face of it, that would have seemed positive, but that's not looking like it's worked out particularly well for them. So I think it will take time, and probably there will be some negative reaction to start off with, but it's looked for a while like something they might benefit from, and we're obviously hopeful that they will.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to leave it there. I'm going to go and join Paddy in the dark room to lay down for a little while, because it's been that sort of day. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you check this story out if you haven't on all our channels. And like I say, and as Paddy said earlier, keep it locked for tomorrow morning for some more as well. It's going to be a busy couple of days, I think. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you.